We're going to write all three of these truth tables. But let's talk about what we're looking at here. So we talked about conjunctions and disjunctions and the truth values of the statements within each, right? Instead of having to write out these compound statements for each problem, if you learn how to separate a compound statement into statements and just label the statement as Q, P, or R, then you can kind of fast forward the process by putting it into a truth table, and you can determine if the conjunction or disjunction is going to be true or false really quick. Instead of having to read the compound statement and do the processing of, man, is that going to be true all the time? Is that going to be false all the time? You can look at these truth tables and get a really quick answer, which is kind of what we're trying to get to in today's lesson. So give me one more reader here. Campbell, right there, front and center. Just read these top two sentences for me.
A convenient method for organizing the truth values of a statement is to use the truth table. Truth tables can be used to determine truth values of negations and compound statements.
Perfect. So we're going to write all three of these truth tables. So go ahead and get these two written down. For a negation, I wrote if then above it. You're just saying if P is true, then the negation of P is false. If P is false, then the negation of P is true. It's just the opposite. If you ever see the squiggly line in front of the statement, it means not. So the truth value is going to be the opposite of the original statement. For an and table, that's a conjunction, right? It's the up arrow. Both P and Q, both statements have to be true. Both statements have to be true for the conjunction to be true, right? This is the only way a conjunction can be true, is if both statements' truth values are true. Anything else in a conjunction, if you have one statement that's false, the conjunction is going to be false. So after you write this table, just go ahead and make a note of that. Only way for a conjunction to be true is for both statements to be true. And then write down the disjunction table as well. And this is, again, for or statements. With the down arrows. This is P or Q. So similar but the opposite to a conjunction, right? There's only one way for a disjunction to be false. For a conjunction, there's only one way for a conjunction to be true. For a disjunction, there's only one way for a disjunction to be false. Both statements must be false for a disjunction to be false. If any statement is true in a disjunction, then the disjunction is true. Okay, so go ahead and make a note of that as well on this table. It's the only way for... What's up? Okay, yeah, it's the only way for a disjunction to be false is if both statements are false. Okay, you guys are going to use these three tables on the homework. Y'all are going to get some class time for practice problems. Just make a mental note of this. When you get to problem number 35 on the homework, go back into the book and use example 3 as an example for problem number 35. And I'm just going to tell you guys this, my first period, and I kind of talked about it right before they left. The book does this, guys, throughout the chapter. I don't necessarily love it. When you've got a negation of a statement within the table, it will label the statement and then the negation. We know that if it says not P, then the truth value is just going to be opposite of what the original statement was. So if the original P is true, then the negation is false. Why I say that, you don't really need to write that first column. If the problem is asking you for, in this case, the disjunction of not P or Q, we don't really need to write P first just to go ahead and then write the not P or the opposite truth values. And that may not make total sense now. When you get to problem number 35 on the homework, you'll see this column is just an extra step. So go ahead and just write the two statements in the top of the table, Q and not P, that it's asking for, and then the conjunction or disjunction at the end, okay? Here's your homework. Go ahead and write these problems down in your notebook, and then y'all can jump into it. You've got the rest of class time to work, and y'all can ask questions as you go along, okay?